The massive exploration vessel Star Seeker drifted slowly through the empty region of space, its sensors scanning the darkness for anything of interest. Professor James Reed stood at the observation deck, his eyes fixed on the star map floating in front of him. As the only human on board the joint archaeological expedition, he often found himself alone during these quiet moments. Commander Tal, a tall blue-skinned alien with 4 arms, walked onto the deck. His species, the Meridians, were known for their advanced technology and somewhat superior attitude toward other races, especially humans who were relatively new to the galactic community. "Still searching the empty sector, Professor?" Tal asked, his voice carrying that familiar tone of amusement. "I don't understand why your Earth Council insisted we check this region. There's nothing here but space dust and dead rocks." Reed smiled patiently. "Sometimes, Commander, the best discoveries are found in the most unlikely places." As if the universe itself wanted to prove Reed's point, the ship's sensors suddenly blared to life. Red lights flashed across the control panels, and the Star Seeker's AI announced, "Multiple large objects detected ahead. Configuration suggests artificial construction." Both Reed and Tal rushed to the main viewport. As the ship's lights pierced the darkness, they illuminated something that made even the usually composed Tal gasp in surprise. Ships, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They floated in perfect formation, like soldiers frozen in time. The vessels were massive, easily dwarfing the Star Seeker, which itself was considered a large ship by modern standards. "Alert the science team," Tal ordered, his professional demeanor returning quickly. "And get me detailed scans of those ships." Within minutes, the observation deck filled with researchers and analysts from various species. The room buzzed with excitement as the first scans came in. "Look at the design," laughed Dr. Vex, one of the senior researchers. "They're using external armor plating. How primitive. Any modern energy shield would be far more effective." Another analyst pointed at the sensor readings. "Are those nuclear drives? This fleet must be ancient. No advanced civilization would use such basic propulsion systems." The alien scientists continued to point out what they saw as flaws in the mysterious fleet's design. Reed remained quiet, moving from screen to screen, studying the scans carefully. Something about the ships looked familiar, but he couldn't quite place it. "What's wrong, Professor?" Tal asked, noticing Reed's intense concentration. "Surely you agree this is a rather primitive fleet, probably belonging to some long-dead civilization that never made it past their solar system." Reed shook his head slowly. "Look at the formation, Commander. The way these ships are positioned, it's not random. This is a defensive pattern. And look here," he pointed to a particular scan. "These ships weren't abandoned. They were deliberately placed here." "Positioned by whom?" Tal asked, his tone still skeptical. "These vessels are clearly thousands of years old. The civilization that built them is long gone." Reed's eyes suddenly widened as he noticed something in the scan of the largest ship. "Commander, I need to go aboard that vessel." "Why? What do you see?" "Because," Reed said, zooming in on a particular section of the hull, "I recognize that symbol. It's been worn by time, but it's there." He pointed to a faded marking on the ship's side. "That's the ancient Earth symbol for Harbinger Fleet." The room fell silent. Even the most skeptical aliens stopped their laughter. "Impossible," Tal whispered. "Humans only achieved spaceflight a few centuries ago. These ships are far older than that." "Yes," Reed said quietly, "they are. Which means everything we thought we knew about human history might be wrong." He turned to face the commander, his eyes serious. "We need to board that ship, Commander. Now." Tal stared at the fleet for a long moment before nodding. "Prepare a boarding team. Full containment protocols." He turned to Reed. "Professor, since you seem to know something about these ships, you'll lead the expedition." As the team prepared for boarding, Reed took one last look at the ancient fleet. If he was right about what they'd found, The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's history was far more interesting than anyone had imagined. And this was just the beginning. The boarding shuttle moved slowly toward the massive ancient ship. Inside, Professor Reed checked his environment suit one last time while Commander Tal briefed the team. "Remember," Tal said, "this is a dead ship. No unnecessary risks. We go in, gather data, and get out." He looked at the team of 6, 3 researchers, 2 security officers, and Reed. Their shuttle touched down in what appeared to be a landing bay. The massive doors had opened automatically when they approached, surprising everyone except Reed, who simply smiled. "The power systems still work after thousands of years," one of the security officers asked, clearly nervous. "Let's find out why," Reed replied, leading the way out of the shuttle. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness of the massive bay. Despite its age, the ship's interior was remarkably well preserved. There was no dust, no decay, just clean, dark metal surfaces waiting in silence. "These markings," Tal said, shining his light on the walls. "They're everywhere. Professor, you said you recognize them." Reed nodded, running his hand along the wall. "It's an old form of human writing. Very old. Look here. This says Main Command Deck, Level 5. The alien researchers exchanged confused looks. "But that's impossible," one said. "Your species wasn't capable of building something like this when these ships were made." Before Reed could respond, the ship suddenly hummed to life. Lights flickered on throughout the bay, and a soft blue glow filled the corridors. A gentle female voice spoke from hidden speakers. "Human DNA detected. Initiating first contact protocol." The aliens reached for their weapons, but Reed held up his hand. "Wait, this is an automated system. Let's see what happens." Holographic displays appeared along the walls, showing text in the ancient human language. Reed read aloud, "Welcome, human descendant. Please proceed to the command center for genetic verification." "I don't like this," Tal said, his forearms tense. "This ship is too active for something so old." They followed the lit pathways through the ship's corridors. Every few meters, new systems activated, environmental controls, gravity adjustments, more displays. But when the alien researchers tried to access any controls, nothing responded. "The systems are ignoring us," one researcher complained. "Only the human can interact with them." They reached the command center, a massive room filled with control stations and a central platform. As Reed stepped onto the platform, a bright scan light passed over him. "Genetic verification complete," the ship's voice announced. "Human DNA confirmed. Security protocol activated." Suddenly, force fields appeared, separating Reed from the others. "What's happening?" Tal demanded, pulling out his weapon. "Please remain calm," the ship's AI said. "Non-human life forms have been contained for security purposes. This vessel contains information restricted to human access only." Reed approached the main control console, which now glowed with life. "It's okay," he told the others. "The ship's just following its original protocols. Look at this." The main screen filled with data, star maps, ship specifications, and historical records. Reed's eyes widened as he read. "By all the stars," he whispered, "this isn't just a fleet. It's a warning system." "A warning for what?" Tal asked, still trying to deactivate the force field. "According to these records, humanity didn't just achieve space flight recently. We had an empire that spanned galaxies 50,000 years ago." Reed's voice shook slightly. "This fleet wasn't abandoned. It was hidden here, waiting." "Waiting for what?" one of the researchers asked. Before Reed could answer, new alarms blared throughout the ship. The main screen changed, showing a massive star map with a pulsing red warning signal. "Primary threat detected," the ship's AI announced. "The destroyers have returned to known space. All systems initiating full revival sequence. Warning protocol Alpha engage." The entire fleet began to power up, thousands of ships awakening from their long sleep. Lights blazed across their hulls, and ancient engines roared to life. "Professor," Tal said quietly, "what exactly did we just wake up?" Reed stared at the warning screen, his face pale. "We didn't wake it up, Commander. It's been waiting all this time, watching for something. And whatever it was watching for, just arrived." The ancient fleet continued its revival, and Reed knew that the galaxy was about to learn why humanity's ancestors had hidden such power among the stars. Professor Reed worked quickly at the main console while Commander Tal and the others watched from behind the force field. The ship's AI continued to display more and more information about humanity's forgotten past. "This can't be right," Reed muttered, his eyes scanning through file after file. "According to these records, humans didn't evolve on Earth. We just retreated there." "What do you mean, retreated?" Tal asked, his previous mockery replaced by genuine curiosity. Reed pressed a few more controls, and a large hologram appeared in the center of the command room. It showed hundreds of galaxies, with ancient human territories marked in blue. The area was enormous, spanning what today contained thousands of different alien civilizations. "The human empire," Reed explained, his voice filled with awe. 50,000 years ago, we controlled all of this space. Our technology was incredible." He paused, reading more. "We had ships that could fold space itself, cities built inside stars, planets that could be moved like chess pieces." "That's impossible," one of the alien researchers said. "No civilization has achieved that level of technology, not even close." The ship's AI spoke up, displaying historical archive recording. The hologram changed, showing scenes from the ancient human civilization. The aliens watched in stunned silence as they saw massive cities that dwarfed planets, ships that made their most advanced vessels look like toys, and technology that seemed to break the laws of physics itself. "But what happened?" Tal asked. "How did such a powerful civilization just disappear?" Reed's face grew serious as he read the next section. "They came from between the galaxies," he said quietly. "The destroyers. A species so ancient and powerful that even humanity at its peak couldn't defeat them directly." A hologram showed dark ships, bigger than moons, emerging from the void between galaxies. The scenes that followed showed devastating battles, entire solar systems being destroyed. "The war lasted for 1,000 years, Reed continued. "Humanity couldn't win through force, so they chose a different strategy. They decided to hide. Hide. An entire civilization just hid." One of the security officers asked skeptically. "Not just hid," Reed corrected. "They planned. Look at this." New images appeared, showing the massive fleet they'd discovered being built and positioned. "These ships," Reed explained, "they're not just warships. They're a trap. The ancient humans knew the destroyers would return someday, so they left these fleets scattered across the galaxies, disguised as primitive vessels. But inside—" He pressed another control, bringing up the ship's true specifications. The alien researchers gasped. The ship's primitive designs were just a cover. Beneath the simple exterior lay technology far beyond anything currently known to any civilization. "Each ship contains weapons that can reshape reality itself," Reed said. "Defenses that exist in multiple dimensions at once, and AIs sophisticated enough to outthink entire civilizations." "But why hide this power?" Tal asked. "Why retreat to Earth and forget everything?" Reed found the answer in the next file. "Because the destroyers couldn't track what they couldn't detect. The ancient humans erased their own memories, hid their technology, and scattered across thousands of worlds to survive. They became primitive on purpose, knowing that someday when the destroyers returned, their forgotten fleet would be ready." Suddenly, the ship shuddered. Throughout the command center, new systems began to activate. The AI's voice took on a more urgent tone. "The destroyers have entered the galaxy. All fleet systems are now at full power. Beginning crew selection protocol." "Crew selection?" Tal asked nervously. Reed read the flashing message on his screen and looked up at his alien companions. "The fleet needs a crew to fight the destroyers. And," he paused, "it wants us, all of us." The ships were designed to be crewed by both humans and aliens working together. The force fields disappeared. Around them, the ancient vessel hummed with power, its systems fully awake for the first time in 50,000 years. "Well, Commander," Reed said to Tal, "still think this is a primitive fleet." Tal looked around at the incredible technology surrounding them and shook his head. "Professor," he said quietly, "I don't think anyone will ever make that mistake again." The ship's engines roared to life, and the ancient fleet began to move. Humanity's greatest secret was about to show the galaxy exactly why it had been hidden for so long. The news spread quickly across the galaxy. The destroyers, ancient enemies of humanity, had entered known space. Modern civilizations received the warning from Professor Reed and the awakened fleet, but most refused to believe it. "This is nonsense," the Galactic Council leader announced during an emergency meeting. "These old ships and their wild stories are nothing but fairy tales." Reed stood before the council, with Commander Tal by his side. The massive council chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of species. On the giant screens behind them, live feeds showed the destroyers' massive ships moving through the outer systems. "They've already destroyed 3 unmanned research stations," Reed argued. "The threat is real. We need to prepare." "With what?" A council member laughed. "Your ancient fleet of outdated ships. Our modern vessels are far more capable." Tal stepped forward. "I used to think the same way," he said. "But I've seen what these ships can do. The technology hidden within them." A loud alarm cut through the chamber. The screens changed to show a devastating sight. A modern defense fleet of 50 ships, sent to stop the destroyers, had just been completely destroyed in less than a minute. The room fell silent. "That was our most advanced battle group," someone whispered. The ship's AI spoke through Reed's communicator, loud enough for all to hear. "The destroyers have increased speed. Estimated time to populated systems, 6 hours." Reed turned to the council. "You can either help us or get out of our way, but we're taking the fleet out to meet them." Back aboard the ancient command ship, now named Memory of Earth, Reed and his team prepared for battle. The vessel had taught them many things over the past few days, but there was still so much to learn. "Professor," called one of the alien researchers, now working at a control station, "look at these readings." Reed rushed over. The ship's sensors showed the destroyer's true size. Each of their vessels was larger than a small moon. There were hundreds of them. "How can we possibly fight that?" the researcher asked. Reed smiled. "Watch this." He pressed a sequence of controls they'd discovered in the ship's database. Throughout the ancient fleet, hidden systems began to activate. The simple metal hulls shifted and changed. Layers of what looked like liquid light spread across the ships. Strange energies pulsed through newly revealed weapons. "That's beautiful," Tal said, watching from his station. His screen showed that each ancient ship now had the power output of a small star. The ship's AI announced, "All ships at full combat readiness. Awakening final systems." What final systems? Reed wondered aloud. The answer came as the space around their fleet began to ripple. More ships appeared, thousands of them, hidden in pocket dimensions all this time. The true size of humanity's ancient fleet was finally revealed. "By the stars," Tal whispered. "You didn't just hide ships. You hid an entire armada." Reed checked the tactical display. The fleet now numbered over 10,000 vessels, each carrying weapons that modern science couldn't even understand. "Message from the destroyers," a communications officer reported. "They're demanding our surrender." They recognize the fleet, Reed realized. They know what they're facing. The destroyer's message played through the command center. "You were warned never to rebuild. Your species was allowed to live in primitive peace. Now all will be destroyed." Reed looked around at his crew, humans and aliens working together at stations built by his ancestors. "Send them our response," he ordered. "What response?" Tal asked. Reed's eyes hardened. "Tell them. We weren't rebuilding. We were waiting." The ancient fleet moved into battle formation. Modern ships that had mocked their design now stared in awe as reality itself seemed to bend around them. The destroyers were coming, but this time, humanity wasn't running. "All ships, battle stations," Reed commanded. "Let's show them why our ancestors left us this gift." The fleet jumped into faster-than-light speed, racing to meet their ancient enemy. The galaxy was about to witness a battle 50,000 years in the making, and humanity's ancient fleet was ready. The memory of Earth led the ancient fleet toward the approaching destroyers. On the command deck, Professor Reed watched as the enemy ships filled their view screens, massive black shapes that seemed to swallow light itself. "They're powering up their main weapons," Commander Tal reported from his station. "Energy readings are off the charts." The first destroyer vessel fired. A beam of pure darkness shot across space, aimed straight at the ancient fleet's center. Everyone held their breath, expecting destruction. Instead, Reed smiled. "Activate the mirror shield," he ordered, using knowledge the ship had taught him. The beam struck what looked like empty space in front of the fleet. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the darkness twisted, turned, and shot back at the destroyers at double strength. 3 enemy ships vanished instantly. "How?" one of the alien officers gasped. "The ships don't just block attacks," Reed explained, watching the battle screens. "They improve them and send them back. The stronger our enemy is, the stronger we become." The destroyers launched their full attack. Thousands of energy beams, missiles, and strange space-twisting weapons flew toward the human fleet. Each attack was caught, enhanced, and returned. Multiple destroyer ships damaged. The ship's AI reported. "Enemy changing tactics. They're trying to surround us." Reed nodded. "Just like the archives said they would. Time to show them what else these primitive ships can do." He pressed a sequence of controls. "All ships, activate the Star Dancer protocols." Tal watched in amazement as the ancient fleet began to move in ways that should have been impossible. Ships twisted through space like water, flowing around enemy attacks. Some vessels seemed to be in multiple places at once. Others vanished and reappeared instantly, firing from impossible angles. "The hull is changing," one of the researchers reported excitedly. The simple metal exterior of their ship was transforming. Layers peeled back to reveal surfaces that glowed with strange light. New weapons emerged from hidden compartments. "Those aren't just weapons," Reed said, reading the ship's displays. "They're reality anchors. Watch." The ancient fleet fired its first full attack. Beams of golden light shot from 1,000 ships at once. Where they hit, space itself seemed to crack. Destroyer vessels weren't just damaged. Parts of them stopped existing, while other parts aged thousands of years in seconds. "Impossible," Tal whispered. "They're not just destroying the enemy ships. They're changing the rules of space around them." Reed nodded. "That's why these ships looked so simple on the outside. All their real power was hidden in bubble dimensions, waiting to be used. The destroyers thought they were hunting primitive vessels, but they walked right into humanity's greatest trap." The battle continued. The destroyers, realizing their danger, began to retreat. But the ancient fleet wasn't finished. New systems activated across every ship, revealing even more hidden technology. "Time-space manifolds deploying," the AI announced. "Quantum lock engage. The enemy fleet cannot escape." The destroyers sent a transmission. This technology was forbidden. The human empire agreed to destroy it. "We didn't destroy it," Reed responded. "We hid it. We hid everything. And we waited for you to return." He turned to his crew. "All ships, prepare the final reveal. Show them why humanity chose to look primitive." Across the fleet, the last layers of disguise fell away. The ships now shone like new suns, Reality rippled around them as technology beyond modern understanding activated fully. The destroyers launched one final, desperate attack. Their weapons, capable of destroying modern fleets in seconds, splashed harmlessly against defenses that humanity had perfected 50,000 years ago. Enemy ships are attempting emergency transit, Tal reported. They're trying to flee between galaxies. Reed's expression was grim but satisfied. Not this time. All ships, execute final attack pattern. Let's finish what our ancestors started. The ancient fleet moved as one, its true power finally unleashed. The galaxy watched in awe as humanity's hidden legacy showed exactly why it had been worth waiting 50,000 years to reveal. The real battle was about to begin. Space itself seemed to burn as the two fleets clashed. The destroyers' massive ships, each one bigger than a moon, fired weapons that could crack planets. The human fleet, now fully awakened, moved like a dance of light through the darkness. They're targeting our center formation, Commander Tal shouted from his station. The main screen showed 3 destroyer vessels focusing their fire on a group of ancient ships. Professor Reed remained calm. Exactly as the archives predicted. Execute Pattern 7. The targeted ships suddenly split apart, their hull plates separating like flower petals. The destroyer's attack passed through empty space where the ships had been, while the separated pieces reformed into twice as many vessels. How is that possible? One of the alien officers asked in amazement. Each ship is actually made of smaller ships, Reed explained, watching the battle unfold. Our ancestors built them like puzzles. The more you try to destroy them, the more ships you have to fight. The destroyers changed tactics, launching what looked like black holes at the human fleet. Space twisted and warped around the weapons, threatening to tear everything apart. Gravity weapons, Tal warned. Nothing can escape those. Reed smiled again. Watch this. He pressed a sequence of controls. All ships, activate the light bridge. Golden beams shot from the ancient fleet, connecting every ship in a web of energy. The black holes struck the web and stopped. Then, impossibly, they began to shrink. The light bridge doesn't just connect our ships, Reed said. It connects different moments in time. Those black holes are being sent back to before they were created. The destroyers' weapons vanished one by one, erased from existence. Their massive ships began to retreat, but the human fleet pressed its advantage. Main weapons are charged, the ship's AI announced. Reality anchors at full power. All ships, Reed commanded, fire the world breakers. The ancient fleet's final weapons activated. Beams of pure white light shot from every ship at once. Where they struck, the destroyers' vessels didn't just explode, they unraveled. Metal turned to light, energy became matter, and space itself refused to let them exist. Their flagship is charging something big, Tal reported urgently. Energy readings are beyond anything we've ever seen. The destroyer flagship, a vessel larger than all the others, began to glow with dark energy. The power buildup was so intense that nearby stars dimmed. They're trying to use a universe splitter, Reed realized, reading the ship's warnings. If that hits us, it'll tear reality in half. The massive weapon fired. A beam of absolute darkness, wider than a planet, shot toward the human fleet. This wasn't just an attack. It was an attempt to rewrite the laws of physics themselves. All ships, Reed ordered, his voice steady, form the final shield. The entire human fleet moved at once, forming a perfect sphere. Energy flowed between the vessels, creating layers of light that looked like a newborn galaxy. The destroyer's ultimate weapon struck the shield. For a moment, everything stopped. Time seemed to hold its breath. Then the shield began to glow brighter and brighter. Shield is holding, the AI reported, converting enemy attack energy. Preparing counterstrike. The destroyers tried to fire again, but it was too late. The human fleet's shield had absorbed their weapon's power and was about to send it back. Fire the unity beam, Reed commanded. All the absorbed energy, combined with the fleet's own power, shot back at the destroyers. The beam was so bright that sensors had to shut down to avoid overload. When the light faded, half of the destroyer fleet was gone, converted into pure energy. No, the destroyer command transmitted. This is impossible. You were primitive. You were hidden. You were weak. Reed stood on his command deck, watching as the remaining destroyer ships began to break formation. We were never weak, he responded. We were patient. And now, after 50,000 years, that patience has paid off. He turned to his crew. All ships, prepare for final attack run. Let's end this. The ancient human fleet moved forward, its true power now fully revealed. The galaxy watched in awe as humanity's greatest weapons showed exactly why they had been worth hiding for so long. The final battle was about to reach its end. The remaining destroyer ships fled in panic, their mighty fleet reduced to scattered remnants. On the command deck of the Memory of Earth, Professor Reed watched the enemy retreat on the main screen while Commander Tal read out the final battle report. 80% of the destroyer fleet destroyed, Tal announced, his voice filled with awe. The rest are jumping out of the galaxy. Their power signatures are fading fast. He turned to Reed. We did it. We actually did it. No, Reed corrected him with a smile. Our ancestors did it. They planned this moment for 50,000 years. The ship's AI spoke up, detecting multiple approaching vessels. Modern galactic fleet signatures identified. Hundreds of ships from various civilizations appeared around them. These were the same modern vessels whose crews had laughed at the primitive human fleet just days ago. Now they approached with caution, their sensors trying to understand the incredible technology they were witnessing. Incoming transmission from the Galactic Council, the communications officer reported. The main screen showed the council chamber, packed with representatives from every major species. The council leader, who had dismissed their warnings earlier, now looked humbled. Professor Reed, the leader began, on behalf of all civilizations, we offer our deepest apologies. We also request guidance. Guidance? Reed asked. Your fleet's power is beyond anything we imagined possible. The technology you command could rule the galaxy. What are your intentions? Reed looked around at his crew, humans, and aliens working together on this ancient vessel. He thought about all they had learned in the past few days. Our intentions. Reed smiled. The same as our ancestors. To protect, not to rule. To guard, not to conquer. As he spoke, more ancient ships began appearing throughout the galaxy. Hidden fleets, awakened by the battle, emerged from their hiding places. Each one carried the same incredible technology, the same powerful weapons. The archives are unlocking themselves, one of the researchers called out excitedly. We're getting more data. Professor, you need to see this. On the screens, a new message played. A recording left by the ancient humans 50,000 years ago. A figure appeared, dressed in simple clothes, but speaking with great wisdom. To our descendants, the recording began, if you're seeing this, then the destroyers have returned, and our plan has worked. But this was never just about victory in battle. It was about proving something greater. The message continued. We had the power to rule, but we chose to hide. We had the strength to dominate, but we chose to wait. We had the technology to control the galaxy, but we chose to let others grow at their own pace. This was our greatest achievement, not the weapons we built, but the wisdom to know when not to use them. Around the galaxy, more ancient technology was revealing itself. But it wasn't just weapons. There were medical facilities that could cure any disease, engines that could power whole worlds, and machines that could end hunger and suffering. Your ancestors, Reed announced to the council, didn't just leave us weapons. They left us the tools to make the galaxy better for everyone. All we have to do is be wise enough to use them properly. Commander Tal stepped forward. The modern fleet captains are requesting permission to dock. They want to learn from us. Reed nodded. Open our doors. It's time to share what we've learned. He turned back to the council screen. Let this be the legacy of humanity's ancient fleet, not that we were powerful enough to destroy our enemies, but that we were wise enough to help our friends. The council chamber erupted in applause. Across the galaxy, ships that had once been mocked as primitive were now recognized as mankind's greatest achievement, not because of their power, but because of the restraint and wisdom they represented. "Professor," Tal said quietly, "what happens now?" Reed looked out at the stars, where ancient human ships were meeting with modern vessels in peace. "Now," he said, "we do what humanity does best. We build, we learn, and we grow, together." The ancient fleet had fulfilled its purpose, not just by defending the galaxy, but by showing that true greatness lies not in the power you possess, but in how you choose to use it. The future was bright, and humanity's legacy would light the way.